Hi, welcome to Board Gems. I like to talk about older board game gems. How old is the game I'm talking about this time? Over 25 years old. Originally came out in 1999. It's designed by Reiner Knizia and was originally published by Goldsieber, a German publisher, and it was called Money. And this is the Goldsieber edition. I believe American publisher Rio Grande Games did an English version of this, a co-production. And then I think it was 2008, you had Eagle-Gryphon Games, another American publisher, doing their own version of Money. In fact, I think they did two versions. They had like a bookshelf series of small games, and Money was one of them, but they also did kind of a travel line, just really tiny little tuck boxes. And I think Money appeared in both formats. And now most recently, we've seen it again from Allplay. Still called Money. It's for 3 to 5 players. Well, this one says 2 players, and the 2-player works fine, but if you're looking for a 2-player game, don't get this for its 2-player mode. But if you love the game and you want to play a 2-player, you can do it. Age range, I think the old version says ages 10 and up, and I think Allplay says 11 and up. I don't know what calculus they use to determine their age range. 10 and up is reasonable. It's very simple game to explain. There's very few rules, but it is an auction game, and auctions often require, or it's best if everyone at the table has a little bit of maturity involved. The Allplay edition says it takes 15 minutes. That's optimistic. I think this one says 15 to 30. You can bang out a game in 15 minutes, but I think 30 minutes is a more, or 25, 30 minutes, something like that range is a more reasonable expectation. It's just a series of blind bid auctions. The game comes with a deck of cards. Each card represents a denomination of money, but they're irregular amounts for the real world, right? $20 through $60. But there's different currencies. So there's US dollars, and there's Japanese yen, and there's, Swiss francs. Generally, your goal is to get as many cards as possible in as few different currencies as possible. Because for each currency, you need to collect a certain amount of money of those denominations in order to score the most points. And you can also get bonus points for getting sets because there are some identical cards in the deck. And this is all done with a blind bid auction. Your goal is to get money, but how do you get things? By spending money. So you're getting money by spending money. You'll take money in your hand that maybe you don't want to collect and use that for bidding to buy other cards that are other money, and maybe that's the money you want more. But there's a very clever bit where you don't necessarily have to take what's on offer. You can actually take someone else's bid. Money is money after all. Let me show you how it plays. I will use this edition, which tweaks the rules a little bit. I like this edition, and I want to talk about whether it's still a gem or not. The game Money consists of a deck of cards containing several different types of currencies. There's 7 different types of currencies, and in each currency there are 3 cards of value 20, 3 cards of value 30, and 1 each of values 40, 50, and 60, for a total of 300. There are also, in this edition, silver and gold cards. Silvers are always worth 10, and golds are always worth 20. So you're going to use the whole deck for a 5-player game. You're going to remove 1 currency for 4 players, and 2 currencies for 3 players. You'll also remove all the 0 cards from the deck and give each player 1, which they can use for bluffing during the game. Any extras left over are removed from the deck. Shuffle the deck of cards and give each player a hand of 6. The rest of the cards go in the middle, and you're ready to start. The goal of the game is to collect cards of the same currency when possible. All the cards of a single currency that you've collected by the end of the game are worth their face value only if you've collected at least 200 worth of it. If the total was 200 or more, you would score their face value. If the sum is less than 200, you subtract 100 from the total value. So this sum is 170. If this is my holdings by the end of the game, this is only worth 70 points to me. And this is 0. Minus 100, of course, would be below 0, and you can never go below 0 for a currency, so anything below 100 is just worth nothing. So ideally, you would get a lot in a small number of different currencies. But you can also get bonuses. There is 3 each of the cards valued 30 in a currency. I have 2 right here. And there's 3 of value 20 in every currency. And if by the end of the game, you can get a set of all 3 cards of the matching value and matching currency, you will score a bonus of 100. That is for every currency, including, in this edition, the gold and the silver. There is 6 of each of these values. At the end, you will also add up just the values, the face values of your gold and silver cards. So all of these are worth 10, all of these are worth 20. But again, if you can get a set of 3 different ones, and there are 6 total, so 2 people can do this, or even 1 person can get 2, for every set of 3 matching cards of any type, you'll get a bonus of 100. The game takes place over a number of rounds. At the start of every round, there should be 4 cards on either side of this board. So there are no cards there right now, so for the very first round, we flip over 4 cards. I don't know if this is all in shot. Let me do it this way. So all the players can see the lots of cards that are available, and players will take cards from their hand and offer a bid. You can bid anything you want, including 0. If you want to bid 0, you just do this. You would take your bid and you would put it face down like this, and then reveal. So all players do this. They take their bid, put it in a single stack like this in front of them, and when all players have done so, they reveal, and each player sums up the values of the cards in their bid. Highest sum goes first. If there's a tie, you look at the serial number, this little tiny little number on the card. The player who played the card with the lowest serial number wins a tie. And then we go from highest bid to lowest bid. Let's say it was a 3-player game and these were the bids: 80, 80, 70. Well, this is a tie, so we look at the serial numbers. The lowest serial number in this bid is 13. The lowest one in this one is 10. So this wins the tie. This player goes first and chooses any pile of money cards on the table. It could be this pile. It could be this pile. It could be this pile, or it could be this pile. It could even be their own pile. If they don't like anything, they can take their cards back if they want to. But they can take any pile around the table. Let's say this player decides, oh, I want this pile. So they take this pile of cards, all of them, and puts it in their hand, and these cards replace it. And now it's the next player's turn, and again, they can choose any lot of cards at the table. Could be this one, or this one, or this one, or again, their own. Let's say they particularly like this one. So they take this, they'll take these cards, and these cards will go in front of the player who played this bid. Now, interestingly, even if this player was not next in turn order, let's say it was a 4 or 5 player game, there were more players still to go. Even if they were not about to go next, they would go next now, because their bid was taken, replaced with this one. This is now considered their bid, it's sitting in front of them, and they now have the highest bid at the table, so they would be going next, regardless of what the actual turn order is. There they go, well, let's see, I'm collecting these particular ones, I'm going to take these, like this. And these go into the player's hand, so they can be used for the set collection by the end of the game, but they can also be used for bidding in later rounds. After all players have had a chance to take a lot, then we refill. This side still has 4 cards, so that stays there, but this one needs to be refilled, and we do this until the deck runs out. When the deck runs out, it's possible there may not be enough cards left to fill both sides. That's fine, just fill what you can. Start with one side and then the other. Do one final round, And then players will take the cards in their hand and sum up the values. For each currency, if the sum of their cards is 200 or more, they score the face value. If it's less than 200, you subtract 100 from the value. So if they collected 170, their score would be, for that currency, would be 70. And it can't go below 0. In addition, for every silver, you add 10. For every gold, you add 20. And then in addition to that, for every set of 3 identical cards of any currency, including silver and gold, add a bonus 100 points. And the player with the highest score wins. That's it. You're ready to play money. Reiner Knizia seems to be a master of making games that have very few rules, but are clever, but sometimes that cleverness comes from what some perceive to be kind of complicated scoring. I tried to make the scoring as simple as possible in the rules explanation. I think it is easier to remember to understand how the scoring works the way I taught it, as opposed to how every rule book I've seen does it, which describes like 3 tiers, right? This is what you score if you have more than this, or then less than this, but more than that, right? And there's really only 2 tiers. The best example of that is, of course, Samurai. A lot of people have find the rules for scoring in Samurai to be very confusing. I personally think that the way you explain it makes a huge difference. The rules are not hard to understand in Money. The scoring maybe is a little bit hard to remember, but it is simple. I do like that Allplay came with little player aids to remind you how the scoring works. It is a very simple game, and the flow is very simple. It's a series of blind bid auctions. You have a hand of cards, and those cards are going to do 2 things. You're going to be bidding with them, but you're also trying to collect them. So already you have that conflict. So it's easy to say like, oh, you know, these cards I don't want to bid with because I'm trying to collect that currency. These cards I'm not trying to collect, so I can use these for bidding. Well, what if this is too few? The challenge then becomes like, do I spend more than I need to because of a really good set has appeared, or do I make a low bid? And low bids work in this game. You can make low bids. If everybody else is bidding high, you can sneak in with a low bid and still get something good out of it. You have to react to other players, right? It is a game that rewards multiple plays, especially with the same group. And that's often the case with auction games. You know what? People get nervous about auction games. They think like, oh, you know, I don't know how to evaluate things. Well, nobody knows how to evaluate things. If the game is new to everybody, then nobody knows. But eventually, with multiple plays, you and your group develop a bit of a equilibrium, right? Like, you know, what becomes a reasonable bid for your group. And maybe that wouldn't work with a different group, but it still works within the containment of your group. You have found sort of what are the good bids, and everybody kind of learns that together. So there's always 2 lots available, and those lots are usually pretty good because they have 4 cards each. So you'll want to be, ideally, the first or second in the group, right? The first or second highest bid in the group, so you can get one of those lots. But that's not all that's available. What's also available is other players' bids. If you see one player who's bidding really high quite often, it can be good to be third because you are pretty confident you're going to still get something good out of it, somebody else's high bid. So getting a set early can be good, right? Like if you see an opportunity to get a set, maybe a set of 3 different cards, yeah, you want to take it, right? And you get a set, so you don't want to break that up, so that's kind of dead weight in your hand, right? What you bid with is what's left over. If a really good lot comes up and you have some sets in your hand and just very little of anything else, then you're not going to be able to compete for that thing. Losing an auction is not a big deal at all, right? Maybe you have 2 20s of a currency and the third 20 comes out and you're like, oh, I really want to win that. But maybe you don't have good cards left over with which to bid. You're not going to win that one, but it's not a big deal, right? You're going to get something. Maybe something you don't know what other people are going to bid, but you're going to get something out of it. It might even be a good thing. I'll give you an example. Let's say I have two 20s in something. The third 20 comes up, but I know based on the cards in my hand, I can't get that, right? Somebody else is going to get it. Well, two things. One, that single 20 isn't necessarily going to do them any good unless they're collecting that currency already, but they're obviously not getting a set out of it. So they'll probably just use that in a later bid, and maybe you'll get it then, right? Or you can give up those 20s, give up on the set, but don't use them on the same bid, right? Then the player who got that third 20 might take your bid, but you can break it up, right? Use 120 in one bid, see who gets that one. If you use one of your two 20s in a later bid and that same player gets it and you notice that, okay, they want this third 20, I'm not going to let them have it. I'm just going to sit in my hand as dead weight, right? You can do stuff like that. Every card in the game is in play, or will be in play at least one auction. So card counting is a little bit possible. In practice, I find it's just really hard to keep track of everything, right? Like cards are zipping around and moving between players back and forth. I can never remember who has what personally, and that's the way I like it. But if you do want to card count, you can do that a little bit, right? Like if you decide early on, it's like, oh, I'm going to be collecting Swiss francs. Okay, so I'm going to keep an eye on when the Swiss francs come out. If I can't get them, who's getting them? And do I think I'm competing with them for the francs? If I get the vibe that they're not competing for francs in general, then they'll probably just use those francs in a later bid and I'll have a chance to get it then. Very fast game. And because it's fast, the only real downside that I can think of in the game is that some people might find it a touch repetitive because you're doing the same thing, over multiple rounds. You're doing a blind bid and now look into another lot. Okay, do another blind bid. So that sounds maybe a bit repetitive, but a couple things. First of all, the game is short, right? You're talking less than half an hour. You can get through some repetitiveness for that short a time, can't you? And while there isn't really much of an arc, from beginning to say the second last auction, that last auction can be very tense, right? So, if you almost have a complete set, but not quite, well, that last card you need is out there somewhere. Is it going to show up in a bid? Will you have a chance to get it? Don't know. Maybe it's worthwhile to give up on it. But then again, you might be giving a set to somebody else, right? That last auction can be important, can be exciting, where you see whether you're going to get that last, card you need to either complete a set or, get your total up, $200 or more. And for such a short game, that's all you need. It's not escalating excitement, but it often ends on a high note. I have not seen the Eagle-Gryphon version or either Eagle-Gryphon edition in person. These are the two editions I have access to. I'm not going to do a side-by-side comparison of these unless I stumble upon an Eagle-Gryphon version, and then I'll do all three side-by-side. They're cards that look like money in all editions. This one is relatively realistic looking. I mean, obviously still in card format. You're not going to be fooled into thinking they're real money, right? They look like what they're supposed to represent. But as a result, some of them look a little bit similar. So I have played a game and I made a mistake where I've been collecting a thing and then I realize halfway through the game, it's like, oh, these are two different currencies. Shit. Haven't had that problem with the Allplay edition. There's one rules change in Allplay, unless you count the addition of two-player rules. I don't know if those were in the Eagle-Gryphon one, but and it's an interesting rules change, one that I like. So money generally has, the game, money, generally has a bunch of different currencies, but it also has some, I guess, neutrals, suitless cards, which are gold coins. And they're all worth, in this edition, I think they're all worth 10. So they're really just used for paying for things, right? And they add to your score, but a small amount. So it never feels like they are a big part of the game. So they did two things here. One is they allowed you to collect sets of those gold coins. So at least in the rules translation I have for the Goldsieber edition, you don't get any points for having, say, 3 gold coins. But in this one, you do. You get another bonus of 100 points if you can have 3 gold coins. And they added a second neutral currency in silver. So golds are worth 20, silvers are worth 10, and there's 6 of each, so it's possible for 2 different players to get complete sets. It's great. It's just a little extra something to go for, in addition to getting as many cards as possible, or as high value cards as possible, in very few currencies. Now it's generally more worthwhile to go for the silver and gold. Maybe, not be so quick to just get rid of it in a bid, because it's worth going for individually. The artwork is fine. I mean, obviously it's anthropomorphic animals, but it's pretty easy to ignore. It's just a card game, but it's cute, right? Like the Japanese yen has a koi fish, on the front, dressed up like a prime minister would be, I suppose, kind of formal attire. So, it's cute. And, for me, who doesn't like anthropomorphic animals, it's easy enough to ignore. And in this square box format, I collect these games. So I'm definitely keeping this. I'm very happy with this. One thing to note, though, is that as part of the Kickstarter, they, because what Allplay does with all their games, I think almost all their games, is they give a little bonus. So it's like a way to make it the game a deluxe, or make it come with an expansion, just a little something extra, which is given for free for people who back it on Kickstarter. And usually they do like 3 games in a Kickstarter. So it's like, if you decide to back all 3, we'll throw in this extra stuff for each game. And sometimes they're expansions, sometimes they're little, deluxe tokens. This one is meeples. It's little wooden screen printed meeples. And the idea is that for every potential bonus you can get, so it's either you have more than 200 in a currency, or you have the set of 20s, or you have a set of 30s, you can get the little token, the little meeple, and put in front of you to show that you have that. It's not enough. You still have to write down the scores. So it's just really silly, pretty useless. So I have them. I don't even put them in the box, honestly. It just makes the box, harder to close, and they're honestly useless, I mean, look, the game doesn't need any more deluxification. It's a card game. And as a card game, I think it's pretty darn good. Doesn't need meeples, but, Allplay had to add something for the Kickstarter. This is a recommendation, actually. I really like this game. I recommend it. It's good. It's Knizia. It's a card game. Doesn't take very long. Auctions. But there are a few other games in this niche. This is a well that Knizia has what's an analogy I can use for wells? Pulled a bucket up from multiple times. So I want to compare with 2 other games, both also originally pretty old. I think both of these other ones originally came out in the 90s. One is High Society. Now, it's been ages since I've played High Society. I'm afraid I can't talk about it at length. I didn't like High Society. I played it 2 or 3 times over many, many years, and each time it kind of left me a little bit cold. Mostly because that game, I feel you really need multiple plays, because it is very easy early in the game to get yourself in a position where you realize maybe halfway, 2/3 of the game, it's like, oh, it's actually impossible for me to win. And it's because of decisions I made, obviously, in the first third. But now, here it is 2/3 of the way through, and I realize it's impossible for me to win because, well, I won't get into the rules of High Society. Trust me, it's possible. I manage it. But, probably High Society has a higher ceiling in terms of, how experienced you can get with it and how well that experience pays off. I just really enjoy money more as a more casual experience. High Society can be casual too, but I find High Society can be more punishing, which, again, can be good if that's the experience you're looking for. A casual play of High Society is very possible that somebody can be left with a bad taste in their mouth, because if they just play casually and they find that they, I'm going to lose crap. I mean, the game is short enough, you can play it again, right? But sometimes people will be like, I didn't like that. I don't want to play it again. Can we play something else instead? Personally, I think money is going to have less of that potential for a bad experience compared to high society. But there's a lot of people out there who love, love, love high society. The other closer match is a game called Cat Blues. This was originally a game called Katzenjammer Blues, again from the 90s, also originally from Goldsieber, actually. It's similar in the sense of you have cards, and these cards you're going to be using to bid for other cards. Again, this isn't a review of Cat Blues. I don't want to get too much into the rules of that. I like Cat Blues fine. I've only played the most recent edition, which is from Bitewing. And in that version, they basically have a 1-round version and a 3-round version. Now, the 1-round version really fits a very similar niche to Money. Similar length of time, maybe half an hour, maybe a little bit less, I don't know. If you compare those two experiences, I definitely like Money more than Cat Blues. But Cat Blues, you don't have to just play it 1 round, you can play a multi-round game. I think it's 3 rounds, if I remember correctly. And that game is actually much better. That's a really good game, Cat Blues, if you play the full multi-round game. But if you're playing multiple rounds, then that game is taking, what, an hour-ish? Well, there's a lot of competition now if you're talking about games, auction games maybe, that play in an hour. Oh my goodness, there's so many other games that even though I can recognize that Cat Blues is a good game, it's just not, I don't see a situation where I would choose to play that over lots of other games, including other auction games, including other Reiner Knizia games that play in that same time frame. So Cat Blues is a game that I like. I'm happy to play it when it comes out at a game session. I won't be getting it myself. For me, Money fills that niche. And other auction games for comparing to the longer experience of Cat Blues. So if you want to compare Money and Cat Blues, the short answer is 1-round version of Cat Blues is not as good as Money. Money is not as good as 3-round Cat Blues, but then you're into almost a whole different genre, right? A whole different category of games that, are longer. And there's more competition there. And Cat Blues, while it's good, I don't know that it really holds up to a lot of that competition. So comparing Cat Blues to Money, you're really comparing the 1-round version. And in that case, I prefer Money. I had this version for ages, and I liked it, but it was never like a huge, huge favorite. And the most recent version of this one really kind of ignited my passion for it again. I mean, I still liked playing it. I played it even relatively recently before this one came out and still liked the game. The changes they made in this one, in terms of adding silver and allowing you to make sets of those gold and silver, is an improvement. And I just always enjoy playing Money. And it's a short game, and it's a really simple, fast-flowing game that I do recommend. Thanks for watching. Older games like Money are still good. Even though newer games come out, hey, newer editions of these old games come out, and get them. Allplay edition is good. Go get it! Take care.